I'm surprised I haven't cried more than I thought I was gonna cry. I only cried. I thought I was gonna be bawling. Ah, thank you.
Resume.
Action. Take two.
Action.
Okay. And I remember her just telling me, you know what? He's the man of this household. You need to respect and obey him. And I said, over my dead body, I'm going to respect and obey him. Who the hell do you think this is? You call this a man? And he was like, well, who's the man? Your dad? Because he sure as hell is it. He couldn't even. And he continued, and I lost it. Got so bad. And my mom literally said, well, you know what? If you can't respect this, verbatim, she says this. If you can't respect and obey him, then you can't be here. So when are you leaving? And I was like, what? Because my mom was never one to threaten, ever. She would never say something she didn't mean. And she would, when she mean what she said what she meant, and she meant what she said. I would always constantly see my high school friends or my friends at church and stuff like, well, my mom said she was going to grab me and take my phone away. She said, my mom already been done. Like, there was no warning. Like, that was it. And I remember when I was little, like, when I found out that my parents were divorcing, I was like, you know what, I'm going to move out and I'm going to move in with my dad. And my mom was like, go then, do it. Like, the first time it really hurt her, I remember. And then the second time I said it, she was kind of like, then do it then. Like, go, no one's stopping you. And I knew I couldn't because my dad wasn't stable. You know, I was in elementary school at that time, but I knew whatever my dad was, I didn't know fully, but I knew enough to understand that that wasn't feasible. And so finally I said it so often that my mom literally said, well, you know what? If you ever leave, then you better not ever come back. And I remember when she told me that day, of like, if you can't respect and obey him, then you can't be here. I was kind of taken back because I was like, whoa, was she being for real? Are you playing? Are you bluffing? I was trying to catch her bluff, and straight dead face. And I kind of calmed down because it took me back, and I was like, well, I'm not leaving. She goes, okay, well, then you better start respecting. And I was like, I'm not going to respect that guy. The hell you think this is? She's like, okay, then when you leaving? Oh, and by the way, you still owe me $300 for XYZ and this and that. And I finished the dishes, of course. And I was reminiscing in my head, and I didn't know if like, damn, like, for real? Should I leave? And then I walked to my room and I was like, God, like, you need to show me a sign. Like, what do you want me to do? Because why the hell would I stay here? Why? To keep up with this for another 6 years of my life? Why would I stay? Please give me a reason. Why would I stay somewhere where it's verbally abusive? And my dad was in rehab for the first time that time. He was going to some facility like on Federal, and it was a Latino-based rehab facility. I think it was called Jóvenes Denver, something like that. And so the first part of being in rehab is that they cut off all contact with the rest of the world just because you're very vulnerable. So anything could really trigger you and make you backslide or start using again. So I hadn't talked to my dad in like a month or two, like a few months. I don't even know, but I got a text message from my dad literally as I walked to my room. And when I went to pick up my phone, I saw it. Unknown number. Hey, mija, this is your dad. Nomás que te quería mandar saludos. ¿Cómo estás? ¿Todo bien? Hey, what's up? How are you? Is everything okay? And at this point, I hadn't told my dad anything because I was very scared of what my dad was capable of, especially when it came to his children. And I would always tell him I was fine, I was great. And so this time was the first time I told my dad that I wasn't okay. And he's like, I knew something was wrong. ¿Qué está pasando? What's going on? And I was like, can I come see you? And he's like, come. And it was a blizzard that day, y'all. January 4th, 2017. There was over a foot of snow. I grabbed my basketball bag. I packed it with my uniform and freaking chonies, I don't know what, to last me for like the next 2 days or something. I don't know. And I remember taking a deep breath and I was like, am I going to do this? And then I was just thinking to myself, like, if I don't, I'm just going to relive this, tolerate this abuse, and it's going to be the same circle that's been happening for years already. And I remember they were already arguing in their room, my mom and her husband, and I walked out. I took the keys off of the little hook, and I remember walking out because I knew if I were to walk out, that was it. I was not coming back. I couldn't come back even if I wanted to. And I think a lot of people to this day don't understand that. Like my family and friends don't. Mostly my family. I warmed up the car for like 2 seconds. I just wanted to get out, and I started driving. There was so much snow on the ground that I probably passed 15 to 20 car accidents on the way to Federal, to downtown, or passing downtown. And it was dark, and my eyes were so watery. I remember driving, and it was all blurry because I couldn't stop crying. And I remember pulling up to where my dad was at, and he was outside. I guess they had just finished doing like a break or something, like a lesson. And he gets in the car because it's freaking snowing and cold outside. So he gets in the car. He's like, what's wrong? So he sees me like distressed and crying. And he's like, ¿Qué está pasando? What's going on? He was like anxious of like, what the hell is going on? And I told him everything that had happened in the past like 4 years or whatever. My dad was furious, to say the least. To say he was furious is an understatement. My dad wanted to take action, like I predicted. And I literally had to be there and be like, Dad, I can't have you do anything because I need you right now. I can't lose you right now. And he was already taking great strides to becoming better, to becoming sober, to be of sound mind. And I think it took him everything in him to agree to my terms. He did not want to agree to my terms, and he still kind of threatened. Anyway, so he went inside and he was kind of like trying to, okay, like, where are you gonna go? Like, what's gonna happen? And I was like, Dad, like, I don't know. You know what? I think I'm gonna go to my tia's. And so he got some people from the place, and they were like, mija, ¿por qué no te quedas con nosotros? Tenemos un cuarto. Like, why don't you stay with us? We have a room for you, and this and that. And I was like, I just don't feel comfortable with these people. Like, I don't know these people. So I was like, nah, like, Dad, I'm good. Thank you so much for trying to help me. Muchas gracias. Pero I'm going to go with my tia. So my tias, well, they're basically my second cousins, but they're my tias. And they always knew what was going on because they were like the only people that my mom would actually let me leave the house with. Like, literally, I had a best friend up the street, and my mom would get pissed because I was going up the street. She'd be like, when are you coming back? And I'm like, I just walked here for 30 minutes because you didn't want to give me a ride. Like, give me an hour, bro. Like, chill. Anyway, so these were like the family members that my mom like trusted and actually let me go with. I went to my tias, and they were living in an apartment in Rhino. This was before it like became like really booming. This was like when they first started building in Rhino. And I remember pulling up, and they had company over. So I waited till the company left, and then we were in the living room, and I kind of told them what happened. And I asked, I was like, can I stay here? And they were like, yes, of course. It was my tia and her husband, my tío, and my cousin. Thank God they opened their home to me. So I stayed on the couch, and school was just about to begin again. So I didn't know what the heck I was going to do. The next day I had work at like 6 a.m. because I worked at a hotel downtown. And I remember I had the morning shift, so I just got ready. I went to work. I was so hungry because I hadn't eaten dinner the night before, and I had $4.36 in my card, literally. I get there, and one of my colleagues is like, hey, like, so-and-so brought Santiago burritos for everybody. It's in the office. And I'm like, this guy never brings anything like this ever. We're not even in the same department. How did he bring us burritos? I was like, okay, great. God, thank you so much. Like, I was hungry. I got breakfast. So like, cool. So I was like, okay. And so it was just funny. It was just a coincidence, right? But obviously we don't serve a God of coincidences. At least I don't. And so I was like, okay, God, you know what? Lunch is coming. I'm going to be hungry again. So then my friend was like, hey, I'm going to walk up the street. I'm going to go to 5280 Burger Bar. Do you want anything? I was like, you know what? Just give me fries. And I gave her my card. And I remember she walked over there. It's a couple blocks away. And then she walked back. And I was like, I didn't get a notification from my Chase account saying like, hey, you've been like negative or something. She comes back with 2 big, huge bags full of food. I'm talking like milkshakes, fries, like jalapeno poppers, all these sliders, like everything. She goes, guess who was there? The owner was there. He said that we could just have all of this. And I was like, oh my God. She's like, yeah, what do you want? So we like all feasted. And it was at that moment where I literally felt God saying, I got you. I got you. Thank the Lord. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't have any plan. And someone who literally has a bachelor's of science in planning for events and I have an A through Z all the time. Like, I had no idea what I was going to do. I remember even a friend telling me, like, he's like, so what are you going to do? And I was just like, I don't know. And he literally like took a step back. He was just like, I've never heard you say that. And I literally had to just trust God in this. I knew that God was with me. I knew that he was not going to forsake me. And I think that was made clear that day, the next day. So about 3 days later, I go back, break into my house. Just kidding, I had the key. But I go into my house to one day when my mom's not home or her husband, my little brother's just home. And I kind of just walk in. I grab all the clothes from my closet and I walk out. I didn't say much to my little brother. No, he just started freshman year. And I don't know how he felt. I've tried having that conversation with him, but hasn't really happened yet fully. Kind of to this day still felt like, damn, like I'm leaving my little brother behind. And yeah, maybe I'm not going to take the heat, but I know damn well he will. That's how my mom knew who I was with, because my little brother told her like, hey, Lily came to the house today with so-and-so. And that's how she knew where I was at. I had not talking to my mom to this point. I was ignoring all her calls and text messages. I could care less. That if she thought I was dead, she thought I was dead. I did not care. My mom's not one to like call the cops to report going missing. I know like some people have done, like some of my friends that I've heard stories of their parents will do that, but my mom doesn't. I don't know, maybe because she works in the court system and she knows how that stuff works behind the scenes. I'm not sure, to be honest, but I'm sure that she probably just trusted God and said like, okay, God, like, you know where she's at. I need you to take care of her. And I'm sure she was praying for me throughout the entire time, because I know it hurt her too in some way, even if she doesn't admit it. School is going to start up again. And before school started, I went to go have a meeting with my advisor of the program that I was in college. And she was my favorite advisor. Ugh, I love her to this day. I would literally text her for her birthday. Her birthday's in February. I texted her the other day. And she offered me to stay at her house. And I was like, thank you so much, but I couldn't take her on the offer. She invited me over for Thanksgiving type of thing. She has such a great heart. She's one of the best professors I've ever had. 5-star rating on ratemyprofessor.com. That's how you know. And that year I was planning to go to study abroad in Prague, Czech Republic. And she basically told me, she goes, you are in a triage situation. And I was like, what the hell does that mean? That's too big of a word for me right now. What does that mean? And she was like, triage means back in the war, like World War II, or, you know, back in the day when nurses would bring in the wounded to a nurse at the hospital. They would have the wounded and then the people that were about to die. So they were understaffed. They didn't have enough nurses to serve all these people. So they had to choose who was going to basically get service first. And she goes, right now, your priority is to quit school and get a full-time job. She's like, I wouldn't even recommend going part-time right now. And I didn't want to do that because I was like, I'm on a 4-year plan. This is messing up everything. My goal was to graduate in 4 years. I wanted to get out and start my career, start living the dream. And I didn't want to do that because I was so determined to graduate within 4 years. And I remember her was like, I think that's the better option right now. She goes, Prague, that could wait. Prague will always be there. She goes, maybe you could go next year. Maybe whenever you decide to come back to college, you could go then. She's like, but I do not recommend you going to study abroad this semester. And I was so disappointed because I had already done like a fundraiser of like tamales. My mom helped me. And I did like red tamales or chile de verde, chile rojo. And I sold so many and I like saved up X amount of dollars. So I was like, dang, man, like I'm letting all these people down that literally invested into me to going. And now you're telling me I can't go? Like, what? So I started thinking about like, okay, how am I going to get through school? Because I'm a first generation student. That was really important for me to be the first in my family to graduate college. Like my dad he was born in Mexico, Hermosillo, Sonora. Shout out to everybody from my family out there. And he came to the United States when he was, a little bit older. But my dad didn't go to college. My mom didn't go to college. And so it was very important. And also, honestly, I wanted to set that example for my little brother and all these little girls at church and like all these little girls and my little cousins that were looking up to me and stuff. So I really had to look at the financial aid aspect of how feasible is it for me to continue college? Because I was like, should I drop out now? Should I just drop out or go part-time? Like, is my 4-year plan going to fall through? But I remember going to the MSU financial aid office and literally telling them, this was such like a belittling experience. I don't even know what to call it, just a degrading experience. I went up there and, like I'm very vulnerable at this time. Like I'm very kept to myself. I didn't tell anybody. The only thing I told my mom after like I saw her, because I would still see her at church, was like, I don't want you to tell anybody. Like, I don't want anybody to know. This is just between me and you. That's it. Like, I didn't want anybody's pity. And I went to the financial aid office and it was like this brown Indian girl. And I was like, hey, I have been kicked out of my house and I'm just wanting to see who I could speak with because I need to get through the rest of college and what my resources and my tools are. And I remember literally, this is what she said. You're gonna be fine. Like my little sister got kicked out. She was back in like 3 days, so I'm sure you'll be fine. And she's like, I don't think there's really much that we could do for you, but here's the paperwork that you could probably fill out, and maybe we could do something for you. But I don't honestly, I'm sorry, there's nothing we could do any more than that. And I literally was like distressed. Like you could see it on my face. Like how could you? I literally grabbed the paper and I was like, thanks, left. I made another appointment for somebody like in the back. So I was like, let me just talk to somebody in the back. Waste of time. They were like, well, as long as your estimated family contribution, EFC, is what colleges kind of like make in order to see how much financial aid you qualify for. She goes, as long as your EFC, and because my mom made not a lot of money, but it was better than average. And they were like, as long as your EFC is this much, like there's nothing we could do for you. Like there's no resources. It was a waste of my time. It was so discouraging. And I walked out and I was like, what the hell am I going to do? And the only way I got to my first year of college was through scholarships. I applied to 32 scholarships in high school, and tell me how many I got. Only 2 because of my EFC. Yeah. Mind you, like my mom wasn't rich. She was single, taking care of 2 kids, just bought a house, trying to freaking fix it because it was foreclosures. That's the only thing she could afford. And trying to get out all of this debt that she was already in with my dad. And anyway, so it was just something they couldn't see. As long as they saw the EFC, that was it. I couldn't qualify for more. So anyway, so I started applying to more scholarships, and I got an interview with the full ride scholarship, Reicher Scholar. And the scholarship is only offered for, I think, CU Boulder, CSU, and MSU students. And at this point, I had already moved in with my other uncle in Parker. That semester was finished, and I really wanted to get straight A's, kind of to show my aunt and uncle, like, hey, thank you for investing with me. I promise it didn't go to waste. And I I moved in with my uncle in Parker because he had an extra room, and so basically I would kind of get my own room. But it was tough because I didn't really have much privacy. And during this time, like my coping mechanism was like I started going clubbing, I started going out. I was still 18. I had just in this transition I had turned 19. But that's how I was coping and going out and whatever. And but I moved farther away. So mind you, my school was downtown, my work was downtown, my church was in Thornton at that time, and Parker was like a good 45 minutes away. It was far, and I didn't want to move that far, but I knew that it was a better option for me because it was a lot of stress for my other uncle and aunt and my cousin, because literally the following Monday that I moved in with them, my uncle got in a very severe car accident, and then my aunt lost her job. Yeah, it was like, well, my cousin lost her job and she was the breadwinner on the household. And so my aunt was supporting me, her husband, and her sister. And it was a lot, and it was getting tough. So my uncle offered me to move in with him and his wife, and it was even farther, but you know what, desperate times call for desperate measures, and I moved in there. Tell me why. They had a 5-year contract with their landlord, and their landlord said you have 30 days to move out or pay double what you're paying now. Y'all. So then my aunt and uncle are looking at me like, are you moving in with us permanently? Do we have to find a house that has a apartment or a condo or house townhome that has another room available for you? And what's the status on all their scholarships? And it was a lot of pressure. But the first time I ever spoke out and actually told the world about what was happening was through poetry. So like I told you guys, I express myself through poetry. That's how I pray to God and everything. And I wrote a poem, and it again was just flowing to me. Like these words were just flowing to me, and I just had to write it down. And this was May 31st, 2017, and I later on labeled it Triage, but this is what it says. I hate the word perezoso. For those of you who do not know what that means, it comes from the sloths, a way of expressing their laziness. It literally translates to lazy.
You see, words have a powerful way of influencing your thoughts and actions. It can make you feel a certain way, like when the boy you like says I love you, or when the nerves run through your body when they say ready, set, go. You see, words leave such a great imprint on your mind, body, and soul. It could be delightful or it could be bitter cold.
See, when I was in seventh grade, I was told to let my mother be happy, and on her wedding day, with tears flowing down my face, it took everything in me to cease. When the pastor said, speak now or forever hold your peace. It had been 5 years since the divorce. This stranger was now living in our new home, and rules of politeness were enforced. Anywhere we wanted to go or anything we wanted to have was in our hands like a genie's command. It was his way of extending his camaraderie to me and my little brother. It wasn't until one day where I did not feel comfortable. I did not feel comfortable one bit. The next day, he asked for my help, and I held on to my grit and declined his request. He started yelling on how lazy I was, and that moment I lost total respect. Ever since then, when my mother wasn't around, he would use words to press my buttons every week. I swear my neighbors could testify. Insults were being screamed across the house, and I was punished for being the one who started all the fuss. I was shushed when trying to explain to my mother the truth. You see, when you are constantly being told that you are lazy, presumida, te crees mucho, no haces nada, huevona, no eres nadie, eres bien tonta, tu papá es un drogadito y borracho, not only does it build a mountain of bitterness, it literally creates a baggage of distress. You see, when you have these words beaten in your head for years, you start to believe them. January 4th was the last dispute we had. The outcome of it still makes me feel quite sad. Insults and yelling began once again. This time, my phone was recording to catch him in the midst of his bashing. Later, my mother arrived, and and laughed as if I had told a joke when mentioning the things he had said. He stepped in to defend himself, quickly turning the tables as if he had no fault. Yelling began once again. "Who's the man of the house? Your dad?" To say I was livid is an understatement. At the top of my lungs, I yelled, "How do you expect me to respect a coward like yourself who disrespects me, my father, brother, and family?" My mom's facial expression quickly shifted as she finally realized the severity. This time, it was clear. She said, "If you can't respect and obey him, you can't be here." This time, I thought it was a joke. My voice cracked and I remembered clearing my throat. In a matter of minutes, a million things rushed through my mind. I was literally praying to God to show me a sign. I received a casual text from my dad, contemplating while stuffing as much as I could in my sports bag. I remember my mom told me long ago if I ever were to walk out of those doors to make sure I'd never come back. If I knew one thing about my mother was being strong and firm is something she did not lack. I walked out of those doors into the first blizzard of the year and told my father everything as if I had no fear. I have not slept in a bed for 7 months and my back aches from all the lumps. I remember talking to my best friend and he asked, "What's your plan? What are you going to do?" I said, "I don't know." With a shocked look on his face as he sat, he said, "I've never heard you say that." That was the first time he ever saw me cry, and the last is when we said our goodbyes. That saying, "You don't know what people are battling," is so true. Think of all the times I saw you and you had no clue. School became a question. It was no longer an expectation. My life became triage. My study abroad to the University of Prague, Czech Republic, was out of the subject. I was given a choice, and I made my decision. I could have bit my tongue and kept quiet, but why would I? After years, I was mentally sick of the riot. A selected few I just so happened to share my complication with could relate to my situation. That's when I realized this is a problem amongst our generation. We need to stop this negation. Divorce rates are off the charts. Step parents are replacing their part, and this has always been heavy on my heart. Sometimes it works out, but sometimes it does not. Parents, remember, they too are going through this. Peers, remember, you will get through this. When the storm has reached to its highest potential, it is so easy to give in any situation. It's as if you drained all of your strength, as if you were just getting knocked down, but in his arms is where you are safe and sound. I know I'm not alone. I can't thank my aunt and uncle enough for being there, guiding me through the unknown. Above all, God has been my rock, and he has a tight grip on my hand through the crosswalk. And please, this goes out to everyone out there. I am here if you need to talk. Be careful what you wish for, and make sure to pray very specifically, because God will make a way depending on what you say. I always said I was going to move out by the age of 18. I just didn't know it was going to be like this. Lastly, do not let distress and complications get in the way of your goals and aspirations. Your heart might be aching, and believe me, it will. Just remember to be still. You are a warrior, and everything happens for God's will. Live your life like nothing's wrong. I'm not saying to fake it, but because you are that strong.